The Immrama Travel Festival has been on the go since 2003. Hard to believe, 16 years. And during that time, they've brought us some amazing guests and some very interesting people to Lismore, County Waterford. And this time round is going to be no exception on that. In fact, our guest on the show is going to be a part of it this coming Saturday at Blackwater Community School. He's a Scottish archaeologist. He's a historian, writer, presenter of the BBC documentary series Coast. And his name is Neil Oliver. And he joins us now. Neil,
morning,
good to be talking to you.
Good morning to you too, and it's lovely to be with you. Thanks for having me.
No bother at all. Have you been to Immrama before, Neil?
I haven't attended the festival. I have been in the Waterford, Lismore area, filming Coast actually. So I'm familiar with that bit of landscape, but I haven't until now been invited to attend the festival, so I'm very much looking forward to it.
Yeah, you're in for a treat. It's a brilliant festival, actually. I've been to it many times, and I think it's quite unique as well, a festival of travel writing. And I'm sure for someone like you who's interested in travel and the world and history, you're probably really looking forward to meeting some of the other speakers who'll be there as well.
Yes, I've noticed I suppose I've been writing books now for about 15 or 20 years, let's say, and during that period the number of literary or book festivals has grown like topsy. I can remember when they were quite few and far between, but in that intervening period there are now so many, and yet there seems to be room for many more. They're lovely. For someone like me who grew up loving books and now I write books, it's very reassuring, I suppose, to see so many people gathering in all sorts of locations all over the islands to talk about and books and listen to authors, and the fact that it's now there's the opportunity for festivals about nature writing, festivals about travel writing, festivals about crime writing. I live in Stirling and there's a big crime writers festival every year, and
cool.
It's great. It's great to see that in these digital times, in these times of social media and all the rest, people are still consuming books.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree with you more.
Many different things to talk about, Neil. And you know what? I must tell you, when I was a kid, only a smallie, I used to be out in the backyard digging up stuff all the time. And I was mad to be an archaeologist. I remember expressing this wish to my mother and she'd tell me, well, I don't think there's a whole load of money in that. But
and how right she was.
Well, I was just going to say, was she right?
Well, yes, I worked I studied archaeology at Glasgow University in the mid-80s, and I graduated, and I worked as a freelance archaeologist, doing exactly what you were dreaming about doing when you were a lad. I was all over the country digging holes, and it was great fun. And it will always be my first love. But making a living doing it is
very difficult. Bar you really actually dig up money now, Neil, or gold bullion or whatever.
Really, officially, you don't get to keep the stuff you find.
Of course.
My mother knew so much.
Yes, but the reality is, I mean, by happy chance, really, I went through various other careers. I worked in newspaper journalism. I worked in various things. But the circle of life brought me back around to archaeology. I stumbled into television by
Your first love.
Yes, and increasingly as the years went on, I've made television about archaeology and history. So there was a strange synchronicity about it, I suppose. My first love came back around again for me.
Yeah, but isn't it great to be able to combine all of that? Very lucky to be able to do that, says you.
Yes, I am, and I get badged as a historian on television, but I'm not. I don't have a history degree. I have an archaeology degree. What I am is a history enthusiast. And I think hopefully what comes across perhaps is that I'm learning history all the time. Mm-hmm. My career over the last 15, 20 years has been an education. Every day is a school day, as they say. And I think the fact that I'm coming to a lot of it very fresh, and I'm hearing things and learning things as I go along, and hopefully some of my excitement at what I am learning is what comes across when I talk.
I was just going to say that, Neil. It certainly comes across in the likes of Coast and other things you've been involved in. That's just simple grassroots kind of enthusiasm for what you do, and I must say it's infectious, and it's like you're discovering things along with the viewer, which of course you are from time to time.
Which we are. It was quite a fast moving television documentary to be part of, because we were covering a lot of ground and we didn't have long in any given location, so we had to quickly find locations, meet people who could tell us about those locations. So the whole thing was quite dynamic, and I think that energy comes across. And what it did for me more than anything else is I was born and raised to love with love of country. You know, my dad was mad for taking us off into the countryside and up into the Highlands of Scotland. And I grew up appreciating the place.
It's such a beautiful part of the world, isn't it, as well, the Highlands of Scotland? I was only there recently. Amazing part of the world.
But saying that, Coast took me on a magic carpet ride around the whole of the islands, the British Islands, island of Ireland. It took me around the whole place, and it reinforced what I had suspected all along, which is, and I'll say it with my hand on my heart, that these are the most beautiful islands on the face of the earth. I wouldn't live anywhere else.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more.
This archipelago is my favourite place. Your part of the world is beautiful. And we are just a blessed people, really, to be able to call this landscape.
So right on that, and how much we should be looking after us in the age in which we are too, Neil. You know, it's a big question too.
Neil, the history of Scotland and the Vikings, which was another BBC flagship series that you fronted, there will be huge interest in that when you're, in Lismore tomorrow, because of course Waterford has a massive, massive connection to the Vikings and our Viking heritage as well. And, it's something we talk about quite a lot.
Yes, well, indeed, when I filmed that television series, The Vikings, and the book that I wrote that accompanied it, we were in Waterford then.
Cool.
Precisely because of that. And that's, that was another series that brought me back into that part of, or took me back into that part of the world. And the story of the Vikings is an extraordinary one because people have a certain almost caricatured image of what the Vikings did. But the reach of the Vikings was just absolutely extraordinary, as well as reaching every corner of these islands, Britain and Ireland. They were across the Atlantic, they were in Iceland, they were in Greenland, they were probably in North America, and then the Swedish Vikings were across the Baltic Sea and down into the great rivers down into Russia. They were bringing back silver dirhams from the Arabic Middle East. An extraordinarily adventurous, dynamic people who knew what they wanted and how to go about getting it.
But wasn't it extraordinary, Neil, when you think like you were relying on the wind and you were relying on the power of your arms and rowing your way across the Atlantic and what have you, and no outboard motors there or sucking diesels as you...
And indeed, when they were making their headway into across the Baltic and down those rivers, they were described by the locals as the Rus. R-U-S. That wasn't a name they gave themselves. They were called the Rus, which meant the men who row.
Oh, right.
And Rus, because those Swedish Vikings were instrumental in establishing the country that became Russia.
Mm.
They established a city at what became Kiev, and so Rus, the men who row, became Russia.
That's super interesting. Never knew that either.
Wow.
We're unfortunately almost out of time, Neil. Just to say, your most recent book is the story of the British Isles in 100 places before, and that's a kind of a kaleidoscopic history of these places. You will be talking about that, no doubt, tomorrow, and plenty of other things if people want to head along and see you in Lismore.
Absolutely. Do you know? I'll be talking about it being a festival of travel writing. I suppose my ethos is that I have been on a journey that's not just a geographical travel, but also a travel through time. I suppose an aspect that I can bring to the festival that will hopefully be of interest is that the way in which I have come to understand the British Isles and Ireland is a story that's 1,000,000 years at least in the telling. So my journey is not just through geography and through landscape, it's also through time, and there's a flavour of that, hopefully, in the story of the British Isles in 100 places. But really everything I've done, from Coast through the Vikings, the history of Scotland, it has always been about my childish fascination with how long this part of the world has been populated and how incredibly complicated and fascinating the resultant story is.
Brilliant stuff.
Well, you do a great job on bringing it alive, Neil, and it's going to be a great visit, and we will urge people to go along. And
3:00 tomorrow afternoon, Blackwater Community School Hall, and you will find out more on lismore-immrama.com. I think there's still a handful of tickets left. So 3:00 tomorrow, Blackwater Community School. Head along and see Neil Oliver.
I'll be there.
Great stuff, and enjoy every second of it.
Pleasure to talk to you, Neil.
Thanks a million, Neil.
Both.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Success to you and